Alright, so today I want to show you the potential of the Banana and the Enchi gene when combined together in ball pythons. Make some really awesome combos. And I'd say most people, I think they kind of have a one-dimensional thinking when they first get into ball pythons. For example, when I first started, I actually bought a Coral Glow, which is pretty much the same as a banana. And I'm thinking, alright, what do I have in my collection that I can breed that to make some awesome combos? And what can I buy to combine with that to make some combos? But a lot of times, I would say most people are thinking about one gene, like the Coral Glow. What can I breed into that? But I would say if you kind of think on a two-dimensional level, for example, if you take the Banana and the Enchi as the base and then start putting other genes on top of that, you're thinking, you know, the base is two genes, and what can I mix with that to make some really awesome combos? And I would say, you know, I've been looking pretty much all across Morphmarket. Probably the best two-gene potential out of any snakes to make some really amazing combos is the Banana and the Enchi. As a matter of fact, I started thinking, you know what would really be awesome is if you actually had a super Banana, super Enchi ball python, especially if it was a male, because everything you bred it to would be an Enchi banana. All the offspring would be Enchi bananas, and if you actually mixed other genes on top of that, you can make some really amazing combos. And I went over to Morphmarket, and as a matter of fact, no one has ever listed a super Enchi, super banana over there, so I thought that was kind of interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to Morphmarket, and I want to show you some of the amazing potential of the Banana Enchi. Alright, so I'm going to jump over here on morphmarket.com, and I want to start with the banana ball python. The banana is kind of interesting because the male and female, the gender of the offspring is related to the parents of the banana. It's kind of interesting. It's the same thing with the Coral Glow, and it's only the Coral Glow and banana that actually have that weird anomaly. I actually have a male maker, and I produce lots and lots of Coral Glows that every single one is a male, and since they come from a male, they are all male makers. You know, I say it's pretty hard to get a female. That's probably why no one's ever made the super banana, super Enchi, because, you know, most ball pythons, you breed them 50% are males, 50% are females, and for some reason it seems like the male makers on bananas and Coral Glows are just really prevalent. It's pretty rare that you actually find a female, and usually the females are pretty expensive too. So the interesting thing about Coral Glows slash bananas is when they're young, like this hatchling right here, they're really bright and colorful, and then they have some really awesome color, and when they grow old they change dramatically. As a matter of fact, when I bought my Coral Glow, it looked almost exactly like this on the pictures over here on Morphmarket, and then when I got it, take a look at this, it actually came and it was like quite a bit older. It was several months older, and it had a lot of these freckles. This is actually what happens to the banana as it ages and matures, gets a lot of freckles, loses a lot of the orange and purplish color, turns more usually of like a two-tone yellow with all these freckles on it. It's kind of interesting. So here's another one. This is the Enchi. So the Enchi, you mix it with the banana, and it's kind of like the base starting point. I just wanted to show you the Enchi alone by itself so you can kind of get an idea of what the Enchi is all about. And the Enchi, essentially what it does is it reduces the pattern of the snake. And normally, like on a normal ball python, just like classic wild type, you actually see kind of the Roswell gray alien heads on the sides. And this actually reduces the pattern, almost gives it some striping down the side in severe cases. And I'd say it really depends on the line of the Enchi. Some reduce a lot more than others, and this is also a co-dominant morph, so you can actually breed it with another Enchi and get a super Enchi, which is pretty awesome. So if you actually mix the two together, take a look at this. This is the Banana Enchi, and the thing I really like about the Banana Enchi, probably the number one thing, is that it almost totally eliminates all the spots on the ball python. And I'd say in most cases, as an adult, I've actually seen some adult females over here. I saw one female, it was actually sitting on a bunch of eggs, and it just had a couple little spots along the back. And it's kind of interesting that certain genes will actually kind of wipe away all the freckling as the banana matures. But if you look at this, this is probably one of the most impressive two-gene combos, the Banana and the Enchi. And we start stacking stuff on top of it, it gets really pretty awesome. As a matter of fact, I kind kind of wanted to show you this. I'm not really focusing on the Super Enchi, but it does have quite a bit of an effect. So if you actually have 2 copies of the Enchi, it reduces the pattern even more. You can definitely tell on this one, it's super reduced pattern from the Super Enchi, and you can definitely tell the banana is still in there. Really beautiful combos. It seems like all these combos that have this really creamy, just like a really awesome streamlined color. I just really love how the Banana and the Enchi and the Super Enchi really works in these combos. So here's another one. This is actually the Sugar ball python. You may not have heard of the Sugar. It's actually, some people consider the Sugar the same thing as Calico. And you can definitely see a strong influence of the white coming up the sides. Essentially, Calico does the same thing. And the Calico is kind of interesting. Calico slash Sugar is, it's more or less white coming up the sides. I've seen some that are really extreme examples where it brings all the white all the way up to the top. And some you can hardly tell that the Calico is, or the Sugar is actually in the snake. This is what happens if you actually add the Sugar to the Banana Enchi. Take a look at this combo. This is really awesome. And you start making some of these combos and it's like I haven't seen a single one that really let me down. These are all really awesome snakes. And it seems like they really keep their color and their contrast into adult versus, you know, a lot of snakes will actually fade as they mature. Seems like a lot of these really keep the really awesome color. And you can definitely tell on this one, the Calico just really opens up kind of these white spots here, brings a lot of the color up to the top, brings a lot more white in the side. And I'd say when I first was looking at this, you know, I was looking at some Calico slash Sugar combos into this, and it's really hard to tell unless you actually put them side by side with the snakes, the Banana Enchi without the Sugar. You can definitely tell that it's in there. Here's another one that's pretty awesome that works really well with this combo. This is actually a cinnamon. The cinnamon's interesting. It's actually a dark morph. Kind of gives a really dark background when you mix it with a lot of combos. This is what happens when you mix cinnamon with Banana Enchi. Take a look at this snake. This is one of the most awesome snakes I've ever seen. And I would say maybe in this case, you can definitely tell it has some of this bright purple color in the background. I'm thinking that will probably fade a little bit as the snake matures. The bananas kind of can trick you as they're young. They seem like they're a lot brighter, and especially if they have a bright purple, I'd say this one will probably fade a little bit. But I mean, just take a look at this snake. It is like nothing I've ever seen. It's pretty awesome. So here's another one. This is the Spider. The Spider is pretty awesome. Just as a standalone morph, I'd say this is probably one of the best standalones. It almost looks like it has, you know, some Calico in the sides. It almost looks like, you know, there's several genes in here, but it's just the Spider. The Spider is actually dominant. So if you bred the Spider with something else, half the babies would come out Spider. This is what happens when you mix Spider in with the Banana Enchi. Take a look at this. This is an awesome combo. This is almost, yeah, I almost actually bought this snake or a snake like this when I first started out. I was really eyeing the Banana Stinger Bee. And the Stinger Bee is kind of slang for the Enchi and the Spider together. They call it the Stinger Bee. And it's kind of interesting because when I first got into it and I was looking at the snake, I didn't realize kind of the ingredients that really made the snake stand out and made it really impressive. And it's the combination of the Banana and the Enchi that are working together to make a really impressive snake on top of the Spider. Here's another one. This is a Fire. I actually produced my first Fires last year. I actually have a Fire Pied. Made some Fires, 100% het Pieds. They're pretty awesome. And I'd say Fire is it's a pretty awesome gene. It almost has this creamy look to it. You breed 2 Fires together, you get an all-white snake with black eyes. And a lot of times the Super Fires will have a little bit of yellow right down the top of the white snake. It's pretty awesome. And usually when you mix in Fire into other combos, it lightens and enhances the colors. It's really kind of a lightener to bring out a lot of the brightness and kind of lightens up the background. This is what happens when you add Fire to Banana Enchi. Take a look at this. You can definitely tell that the Fire is really lightening the background on this, and it seems like it really reduced the Enchi too. And sometimes it can kind of trick you. Sometimes I've seen Super Enchis that aren't even reduced as this, and sometimes you can actually see, well, actually, as a matter of fact, this one has Spider in it. Okay, all right. I was thinking, all right, there's got to be something else in there. This actually is the Enchi and the Fire and the Spider together, so you can actually see. And these are actually pretty reasonable if you look at prices. This one's only $350, and I imagine when these first came out, they were pretty expensive. But the thing is, if you actually mix the Banana and the Enchi in with some recessive morphs, then the price can really go up because it's really difficult to mix more genes in with a recessive. Here's another one, Leopard. Leopard is really cool morph. Leopard is, I consider it pretty much the king of combos when it comes to co-dominant morphs. You can actually breed a leopard to just about anything and you make some really impressive combos. And it's not surprising that if you mix this in with the Banana Enchi that you get a really awesome snake. Take a look at this. This is one of the most amazing snakes that I've seen. It almost makes me want to figure out how to produce that super Banana, super Enchi and just kind of breed it through my collection, and you get all kinds of wild snakes like this. This is really awesome. Probably one of my favorite Banana Enchi combos, adding Leopard into the mix. Here's another one. This is actually the Pewter, and the Pewter is actually a slang for cinnamon and pastel, and it has this really kind of a silvery metallic color. You know, the cinnamon's kind of a dark morph, and then you add the pastel on top of it. Instead of getting kind of a bright yellow snake with the pastel, the cinnamon, the dark, kind of almost makes it like a dark metallic. They call it Pewter. This is what happens when you add the Banana and the Enchi on top of a Pewter. Take a look at this snake. This is pretty awesome. It's probably one of the darkest combos that you can get, adding those two genes, the cinnamon and the pastel, in with the Banana Enchi. And it's kind of interesting if you take a look at this price here, $250. I mean, it's pretty amazing how low these prices are for such awesome snakes. It's a pretty awesome project to get into. Here's another one. This is the Champagne, and when it comes to Champagne, it's a little bit more difficult because you can't breed two Champagnes together. The Super Champagne is actually a lethal combination, and usually when you mix Champagne with almost anything, you pretty much get like a solid colored snake that has a slightly different color. So you have like a pink colored snake or an orange or yellow, and it almost never has pattern when you're mixing other genes into Champagne. I'd say there's a few exceptions. There's a few things that you can really do awesome with Champagne, but you really have to kind of pick and choose to find the premium projects for Champagne. And this is a really awesome one. Take a look at this. This is a Champagne Banana Enchi. And the first thing that kind of struck me is that you're actually seeing a lot of pattern coming out from the Banana Enchi. And you can definitely tell that the Champagne's kind of washing it out, but not like visually dominating the combination, which is pretty awesome. And then on this one, you actually see a ringer. Sometimes the ringer can be an indication of a het pied, but I'd say in a lot of cases, the Champagne, if you actually mix it with other combos, a lot of times you can get ringers, and it doesn't necessarily have to be het pieds. And I'd say if you have a whole clutch, I'd say a lot of times you probably won't see this little white ringer on all of your snakes. I'd say maybe like 10% of the time on certain combos I've actually seen this white little ringer. But that is a really awesome snake. Probably one of the best Champagne combos that I've seen. Here's another one. This is one of my favorite morphs, a Pinstripe. The Pinstripe is dominant. And it's probably like, I'd say it's one of the most bright gold snakes. I actually produced some Pinstripes. And this, let me tell you, some of these pictures don't do it justice. If you actually have a Pinstripe hatchling, or, you know, it's grown up to about a yearling size, the intensity of the gold is pretty unbelievable. I just can't believe how gold these snakes are. If you actually mix Pinstripe in with Banana Enchi, take a look at this. This is actually kind of surprising that it's they're almost fighting for dominance, because the Pinstripe is such a visually dominant morph. Usually it just overwhelms almost anything. And the Coral Glow, the Banana, also is really visually dominant, and it's kind of interesting. You can actually see the Coral Glow in this one, a little bit of yellow coming out. You can see the Pinstripe patterns through it. The Coral Glow is kind of breaking it up a little bit, and then the Enchi is really reducing the pattern down to almost nothing. Pretty awesome. So here's another one. This is actually a banana spinner Enchi, and the spinner is actually the pinstripe and the spider. We call it the spinner. So this is the pinstripe and the spider on top of our base, the Banana Enchi. Makes for a really awesome combo. I thought it was interesting when you take that last snake and then you add spider on top of it, just how much of a difference it makes in the overall color and pattern. That is pretty awesome. Here's another one. This is a Mojave. Mojaves are pretty much like the bread and butter of the ball python industry. If you actually breed two Mojaves together, you get an all-white snake with blue eyes. It's in the blue-eyed leucistic complex. This is what happens when you mix Mojave with Banana Enchi. Take a look at this. This is pretty awesome. You can actually see kind of like little keyholes right here on the side in the pattern, and that is usually an indication that you have Mojave in the mix. And it almost seems like it darkens it out a little bit more with the Mojave. Pretty awesome snake. Here's another one I thought was pretty awesome. This is a pie. This is a recessive mutation. I'd say this is probably where the price is going to go up a little bit more. And the pies are pretty much what kick-started the ball python industry. And the pie mutation, essentially what it does is it brings in the white splotches here through the snake. Sometimes I'd say it's pretty unpredictable as far as how much white is on the snake. This is probably, I'd consider this probably an ideal pie with almost a 50-50. I think that's what a lot of people are actually looking for. This is what happens when you take the Banana Enchi and you mix it in with a pie. Take a look at this. That's pretty awesome. As a matter of fact, when I first started out, I bought my Coral Glow 100% het pied, thinking I was gonna, produce the Coral Glow pies. And here it's like 5 years later. I think when the Coral Glow pies first came out, they were selling for like $1,500, and now they are definitely not $1,500. As a matter of fact, if you take a look at this, this is $400 with the banana pie with the Enchi on top of it. And sometimes some of these projects are really popular. People produce a lot of them, which really drives the price down over the years. Really beautiful snake. Here's another one. This is a clown ball python. The clown is also recessive, and it's kind of interesting. When I first started in ball pythons, I was looking at the pieds and the clowns, and I decided to get into the pieds more at first because I thought the standalone morph was a little bit more impressive, but the clown can kind of fool you. I mean, you look at this and it's not really that much difference in color from a normal, but I would say as far as the recessive combos, this is definitely the king of recessive combos. Makes some really impressive. I'd say you mix clown with almost anything and it makes some really impressive combos. This is what happens when you take the Banana Enchi and you mix it with the clown. Take a look at this snake. As a matter of fact, believe it or not, this snake I actually bought last year. This is my Banana Enchi clown male, and the price is really expensive for these. If you want to take a look at the price, I actually paid $1,500 for this snake, and I'm actually breeding it back to my lesser clown female. And really what I'm hoping for the Banana Enchi lesser clown, and if I can actually make a female, which is really rare because this one is actually, I found out this is actually a male maker, so I'll probably get mostly males, but if I do happen to get a female, I could breed this back to that female if it actually has Banana and Enchi into it. And what I'm shooting for the Super Banana Super Enchi on that one, which would be really awesome. I'd say this is probably one of my favorite snakes, and he's getting pretty big too, and there hasn't really changed color at all. I'd say there's just a couple little black spots, really tiny little freckles here and there, but it's been about almost a year now that I've had him, and he's probably doubled or tripled in size with no freckling at all. He's a really awesome snake. So I kind of wanted to finish with one last snake here, and this is a Banana Enchi spider Paradox. And Paradox is kind of interesting because Paradox, essentially what it is it's these little patches of black through the snake, and it's pretty rare. There's not a lot of times you'll actually get a Paradox. And if you actually bought the snake and bred it to something else, you probably couldn't reproduce the Paradox. It's just kind of one of those random occurrences. You actually get something like this that pops out, and you kind of have to be careful with Paradoxes, because if you spend the extra money and you buy into them thinking you're going to reproduce them, you probably can't reproduce a Paradox. But I'd say this is probably one of the craziest looking Banana Enchis with a spider in it that I've ever seen with the Paradox. All right, so it is time for the question of the day. And Kate asks, how do I make a killer clown? And that is a very good question. As a matter of fact, killer clown is short for super pastel clown. Usually when we say killer, it's short for super pastel, and it's kind of a difficult combo to hit. So you actually have a super with 2 copies of the pastel gene, and then you have clown, which is recessive. So you actually need 2 copies of the clown gene. So you actually need 4 genes to actually hit it. And there's several ways you can actually make a killer clown. Probably the easiest way would be to start with 2 killer clowns and breed them together, and you get a whole clutch of killer clowns. It's probably the easiest way. But the problem is you're probably going to pay a lot of money for those killer clowns to get into the project. There are less expensive ways. You can actually buy a killer clown and a pastel clown, breed them together. 50% will come out killer clowns, 50% will be pastel clowns. Or you can actually breed 2 pastel clowns together, but you only hit the killer clown about 25% of the time. There's even a cheaper way. You can actually buy a pastel het clown. You can buy 2 of them. Probably the cheapest way you can do it. But if you breed those together, I think your odds are probably about 1 in 16 that you'll actually hit the killer clown. So that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.